He doesn't have anything on him, right?
No,
jewelry
sir.
and...
I'm the king of Dublin. I'm the real champion. You're looking at the king of Dublin, yeah? You're looking at him.
Conor McGregor, if that name evokes memories of dazzling glory, explosive punches, or the image of a proud warrior stepping into the octagon with fiery eyes, well, that's hardly surprising. He was once seen as the brightest star in the UFC sky, a man who could knock out opponents in the blink of an eye, but first to dominate 2 weight classes as if destiny itself had been written just for him. And then his audacious leap into the boxing ring to challenge Floyd Mayweather turned McGregor into a global focal point, raking in hundreds of millions of dollars while cementing his status as the UFC's indispensable money-making machine. But every light casts a shadow. In recent years, the name McGregor has been mentioned less for victories and more for the controversies outside the octagon. From high-profile legal troubles to the image of an icon gradually losing his edge, fans can't help but wonder, is the once invincible warrior slipping from the very throne he once ruled? From a celebrated legend to a name met with caution by the media and skepticism by the public, what really happened? How could someone who once stood atop the world lose their way amidst the glare of fame? Today, we'll rewind the tape to revisit that journey, from the heights of glory to the depths of loss. And perhaps this isn't just the story of a fighter, but a reminder of the cost of fame. The brighter the shine, the darker the shadow behind it. So, let's begin.
I'm out of here. I'm gonna just drive out of this building so I head home and pursue this dream of becoming a world champion in mixed martial arts, and that's what I did. I drove home. When I got home, my mother and father said, "How come you're not still at work?" And I said, "I'm never going to go back to that site another day in my life." And then all hell broke loose. But
You might not like Conor McGregor, and that's completely understandable. But if you truly look back at where it all began, it's hard not to be awestruck by his journey. Let's rewind to the early days. A nobody from a gritty working-class neighborhood in Dublin, Ireland. No money, no fame. By day, toiling with a wrench as a plumber's apprentice. By night, immersed in a cramped gym, pouring every drop of sweat into a dream the world dismissed as far-fetched, becoming a UFC legend. And then, that dream sparked to life. In his debut fight, McGregor knocked out his opponent in a merciless 67 seconds. Afterward, he unleashed bold proclamations so confident they left people both stunned and intimidated, as if fate itself had long been scripted in his favor. McGregor didn't just win. He exploded as a phenomenon. A fighter with fists of steel and the ability to electrify an arena with his audacious words. That blazing ego set him apart, and it was the very fuel that propelled him to the top. But the brighter the light, the larger the shadow. As victories came effortlessly, McGregor began to believe he was invincible. And little by little, the ego that built a legend turned into a double-edged sword. Until one day, the same hands that crafted history inadvertently shattered the illusion he had created. From there, McGregor's journey turned to a new chapter, a free fall with no brakes.
Conor, take a look around you. You got a lot of champions, a lot of grizzled vets. Who do you think would give you the hardest fight out of anybody on stage?
This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't move. They're not. Who the is that guy?
To understand why Conor McGregor dared to hold his head high and defy the world, we must rewind to April 6, 2013, the moment that launched a legend. An unknown stepped into the UFC, and in just 67 seconds, he knocked out Marcus Bermage. It wasn't just the punch, nor the speed, it was a cold declaration. McGregor didn't come to test himself. He came to dominate.
Congratulations.
thank you very much.
Dana, 60 G's, baby!
Standing in the cage, eyes blazing, McGregor delivered what seemed like a thank you but was in truth a warning to the world. I didn't just come here to win. I came to make the world pay me what I'm worth. And he did exactly that. Not content with early glory, McGregor took a daring risk, moving up a weight class at the peak of his career. A bold, challenging decision. Experts tipped their hats to his skill. The media praised his unyielding, relentless spirit.
September 27th, I'm gonna rip Dustin's head clean off, you know. It makes no difference about nothing. Dustin a little pea head, and he got wobbled about 40 times. His chin is deteriorating. Every single contest he gets in, he hits one knee. He does a gust of wind, and he does the chicken dance. You know what I mean?
But somewhere along the way, the hero's image began to crack, and perhaps McGregor himself didn't realize. When the spotlight shines too brightly, it can blind the one basking in it to the abyss right beneath their feet. Once seen as an invincible icon, McGregor began to falter, struggling to rediscover himself. The man who once prophesied knocking out Aldo in seconds now found himself helpless against a submission hold. The one who once commanded the media with audacious words became a victim of the very myth of invincibility he had sown, because kings rarely fall by another's sword. They fall because they believe no one dares raise a blade against them. The confidence that once made McGregor a champion began to slide into arrogance. He didn't just want to win, he wanted the world to marvel at how he won. acting as if his opponents were merely lucky to share the same ring. At first, that bravado was celebrated as part of his aura, but the higher he climbed, the more his contempt showed. And from there, the audience's gaze began to shift. The first clear sign of this fracture appeared in 2014, during his initial clash with Dustin Poirier. September 27, 2014. UFC 178. Dustin Poirier was then a young, rising fighter, fiery, skilled, and eager to prove himself. But in McGregor's eyes, he was nothing more than a mediocre contender dragged onto a stage too big for his abilities. It wasn't just provocation. It was McGregor's cold declaration. I play at a different level, and you're not on my level.
September 27th, I'm gonna rip Dustin's head clean off, you know. It makes no difference about nothing. Dustin a little pea head, and he got wobbled about 40 times. His chin is deteriorating. Every single contest he gets in, he hits one knee. He does a gust of wind, and he does the chicken dance. You know what I mean?
And then, the cage proved him right. In just the first round, Dustin fell. McGregor walked away calmly, not celebrating wildly, but like a king casually expanding his empire, treating the victory as a foregone conclusion. But it was all just a prelude until the fateful night of December 12, 2015. In just 13 seconds, McGregor landed a single devastating punch that ended Jose Aldo's 7-year unbeaten reign, a featherweight icon thought to be untouchable. A fleeting moment of brilliance, a cold victory. Aldo collapsed, and with him, an entire illustrious era crumbled. Lying motionless under the stage lights, amid the roar of a frenzied crowd, sounds that no longer belonged to him. From that moment, McGregor was no longer just a challenger. He became the one rewriting the rules. The octagon turned into his stage, and he, no longer merely a fighter, but a performer of extreme confidence, his arrogance forged into legend.
If I feint and he reacts some way, I will feint and I will give him that reaction to set him up for something else. I will create traps and dead space inside that octagon all over the place, and I will walk him into it like a zombie. That is what I plan to do with Jose. I plan to set him up, trap him.
Then the moment arrived when the dazzling UFC stage was shaken by someone daring to tear up the old script. Nate Diaz emerged. No flair, no manufactured glamour, just raw grit, unpolished edge, and a defiant attitude fierce enough to match Conor McGregor's blazing arrogance. In March 2016, the UFC became the epicenter of one of the most electrifying verbal showdowns in combat sports history. Sharp, unrelenting exchanges flew, and then, for the first time, McGregor, the self-proclaimed invincible fighter, tasted the sting of bitter defeat.
No, he's hiding somewhere. I don't know where the you still gotta walk.
We'll see. We'll see. See, come and see what happens.
Yeah, right.
I told you I'll put a hole in your face.
In the second round, as the air in the octagon burned like a furnace, Diaz unleashed a flurry of relentless strikes, leaving McGregor reeling like a ship in a storm. Then, in a sudden moment, Diaz locked in a cold, calculated rear naked choke. McGregor, the man who once boasted no one could touch him, was forced to tap out. One choke, one nod of defeat. In a matter of seconds, the image of the invincible hero crumbled before the stunned eyes of millions worldwide. Nate Diaz didn't just win a fight, he rewrote the story, etching the mark of a warrior who needed no script to shine. And if you thought the loss to Nate Diaz was merely a crack in McGregor's invincible armor, the showdown with Khabib Nurmagomedov was the earthquake that brought the entire castle crumbling down. October 6, 2018, UFC 229. McGregor stepped into the octagon to face Khabib. This wasn't just a fight between two of the planet's finest fighters. It was a collision of two worlds, one defined by arrogance, flamboyance, and relentless media provocation, the other by silence, stoicism, and a chilling level of focus. And the result? McGregor didn't just lose, technically he was defeated mentally as well. In round 4, Khabib locked in a rear naked choke, forcing McGregor to tap out. But what made that moment legendary wasn't the submission itself, but what followed. Khabib roared directly into his opponent's face. "Talk now, say something." A verdict delivered straight to McGregor, making him pay for all the arrogance, the insults to family and faith hurled before the fight. This wasn't just a victory, it was a punishment executed through skill, spirit, and honor. A moment that UFC history will echo forever. After that fall, McGregor never truly got back up. He began a downward spiral. From a cold, arrogant champion, he gradually transformed into the very caricature he once despised, a man sustained by scandal. In 2019, McGregor shocked the world by punching an elderly man in a bar simply because the man refused to drink the whiskey McGregor was promoting. This wasn't the reflex of a fighter, it was a distorted instinct for control. When victories were no longer enough, he sought to assert himself through brute dominance. Less than a month later in Miami, a fan merely asked for a photo. In response, McGregor snatched the phone, threw it to the ground and smashed it, then walked away as if nothing had happened. This wasn't an act tied to the octagon. It was stark evidence of real-life loss of control. Worse still were the string of ethical allegations that followed in Dublin. One incident might be dismissed as speculation. 2, 3, or more, they became a resounding alarm. Yet instead of confronting them, McGregor chose silence or mocking deflection. Each time, he didn't quell the flames of doubt. He only fanned them fiercer. In the end, what McGregor couldn't defeat wasn't an opponent or time itself. It was his own ego. Is there a limit for someone so accustomed to the spotlight that they can no longer discern the final boundary of their own character? After a relentless string of scandals, McGregor needed a fight to salvage his plummeting reputation, a chance to prove that the Iron Warrior hadn't vanished. And so a favorable script was set, a matchup against Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone, a veteran fighter past his prime. UFC 246. McGregor stepped into the octagon, and in just 40 seconds, he obliterated Cerrone with a flurry of knees, finishing with a thunderous knockout. A short, cold statement: "I'm still here, and I'm still dangerous." The crowd roared. The media exploded. It felt like the legend had been resurrected, but that joy was cruelly fleeting. Days later, McGregor abruptly announced his retirement, his third, and then he vanished again. Meanwhile, his personal life remained chaotic. A faltering marriage, old scandals resurfaced, and the name McGregor now only echoed in sensational headlines, no longer tied to the glory of the octagon. It seemed like everything was over, but the world stood still when the news broke. McGregor was returning to face Dustin Poirier, a fighter he had dismantled back in 2014. The third fight was electric, the atmosphere suffocating. The two warriors clashed as if they had nothing left to hold back. McGregor was still fast, still sharp, his initial strikes even forcing Poirier to retreat. But then, a single step. As he moved back to brace himself, McGregor's left leg snapped grotesquely in front of millions of viewers. One of the most horrific moments in UFC history. The fight ended in a doctor's stoppage. McGregor lay motionless on a stretcher, unable to stand. This time, it wasn't just a bone that broke, it was his very image. This could have been a moment for a true fighter to embrace humility and close the chapter, but McGregor refused to accept it. On the stretcher, he still screamed, insisting Poirier hadn't truly beaten him, that it was merely an accident. Then he went further, turning a tragic moment into a farce. McGregor attacked Poirier's wife, claiming she had privately messaged him, a vicious lie that transformed the once great warrior into a petty provocateur. Recently, when UFC hinted at McGregor's potential return, the spotlight swung back to him, but no one was talking about his skills anymore. The McGregor of 2015 was the epitome of a modern fighter. Lean physique, lightning speed, and eyes so sharp they seemed to dissect every opponent's move. The McGregor of 2024 is an entirely different figure. He returned looking like a wax statue, muscles unnaturally bloated, face puffed up, hairline receding rapidly, skin oddly glossy. Signs that anyone with basic medical knowledge would recognize: natural consequences of steroid use. Joe Rogan grilled Conor McGregor amid speculation about PEDs. His urine could melt a USADA cup. A joke, but one that cut to the truth. Today's McGregor no longer embodies the spirit of a fighter, but an addiction to image, inflated by chemicals and delusion. It sounds like a joke, but it's a razor-sharp knife, slicing through the glitzy facade of the UFC. A stinging slap to the face of an organization that once loudly swore by the spirit of fair sportsmanship, now seemingly willing to turn a blind eye as long as the name sells out arenas. And the kicker? Joe Rogan wasn't joking. USADA, the UFC's anti-doping agency, confirmed a shocking truth. Throughout the entirety of 2022, Conor McGregor didn't undergo a single doping test. Not one. This revelation poured fuel on the fire of controversy. The public began to believe that McGregor had used his time away to take performance-enhancing substances for recovery, a suspicion he all but confirmed on social media, citing healing injuries as the reason. Far from quelling doubts, this explanation only stirred the pot further. Now McGregor stands at a critical crossroads. One path leads back to the UFC, where he must submit to USADA's unforgiving scrutiny and relentless doping tests. The other leads to the flashy world of exhibition bouts, like those with Logan Paul or Manny Pacquiao, where rules are lax, banned substances go unchecked, and hundreds of millions of dollars beckon. Which choice will shape the next chapter of this legend's story? Only time will tell. If steroids could be excused as a healing drug, the other substances McGregor is suspected of using ring alarm bells about both his physical and mental health. These suspicions don't just linger in the octagon, they've fueled a storm of real-world scandals, further eroding McGregor's image in the eyes of fans. In 2023, a high-profile incident erupted when McGregor was accused of inappropriate behavior toward a woman at a lavish yacht birthday party. Though no official conclusion has come from authorities, reports claim the woman fled in panic. The incident is just one piece in an endless string of controversies, leaving many to wonder if the UFC still wants to tie itself to a name that was once iconic but now carries immense risk. The anticipated fight with Michael Chandler in 2024 has been repeatedly delayed without clear explanation. Some believe the UFC is deliberately holding McGregor's contract not to bring him back to the cage, but to prevent him from seeking opportunities in other arenas. If true, this strategy reveals the UFC's caution toward a star who burns both brightly and dangerously. Now, the real question isn't when will McGregor return. It's this: do we, the fans who once thrilled at his fiery pride, still want to witness that comeback? Or has the glow of the notorious truly faded, leaving only controversy and regret? Whether you love or hate Conor McGregor, one truth is undeniable. He dared to walk a path no one else would, leaving an indelible mark on UFC history. McGregor wasn't just a fighter, he was a phenomenon. A living legend who reshaped MMA with rare talent, charisma, and audacity. Beyond dominating the octagon, McGregor turned every fight into a high-stakes drama. He captivated audiences with razor-sharp trash talk, explosive press conferences, and a magnetic presence across media platforms. He transformed MMA from a niche sport into a blazing centerpiece of pop culture, drawing millions of eyes worldwide. That success wasn't luck. It was the culmination of a decade fueled by an unrelenting hunger for victory, a steel will, and an obsession with shattering limits. Whatever lies ahead for McGregor, his name is etched into the UFC's pantheon of legends, a legacy no one can deny. From an unknown plumber in Dublin, Conor McGregor rose to the pinnacle of the UFC, becoming a global icon and a living testament that starting from nothing is never a limitation. He forced the world to take notice, not just with his punches in the octagon, but with his audacity, ambition, and talent for turning every moment into legend. Yet, the same fiery pride, towering ego, and intoxication with power gradually pulled him away from the glory fans once revered. McGregor's successes blazed like fireworks, but his failures roared like thunder. The most painful loss wasn't in the cage, it was in the mirror, in the eyes of his own reflection. McGregor wasn't defeated by any opponent in the octagon. He was brought down by his own complacency, by the delusion that he could stand above all rules and standards. The question remains, can a man who once made the world bow defeat the demons within himself? When a legend falls, should we mourn the lost glory or heed the costly lesson? McGregor's story isn't his alone. It's a warning to all. Talent can carry you to the peak, but only character can keep you there. What do you think of McGregor's journey? Drop a comment to share and discuss.